Hello and welcome back, everyone, to Natural Farming Florida. Pardon me, I am a little sick today, so if I cough or sneeze, it's just the cold. I'm filming this on March 4, 2024, which means we are just finishing our cold weather crops and we're moving on to our warm weather and heat loving crops. To give you an idea, I planted out all my tomatoes and peppers in February. I just seeded cucumbers a few days ago. By May, my potatoes and onions will be harvested, and in their place, I will need crops that don't just tolerate heat, but love the heat. Cassava is one such crop. It has a long growing season and requires hot weather and lots of sun to make lots of edible roots. As you may have seen in some of the clips here, I have some harvests that are much smaller because they're planted in very shady areas, and others that are bigger because they're in sunnier areas. Cassava is a very attractive plant to me that grows between 6 to 10 feet tall. It produces a starchy root that is sometimes slightly sweet and is a great substitute when I am out of potatoes.
So, what I want to show you is you can see the roots growing. And you can see the leaf where it comes out, so you can see which way is right side up. What I want to point out is really you're looking for cuttings like this, very close bumps. This is still adequate, don't get me wrong, it's just farther spaced apart.
To plant cassava, you want cuttings with closely spaced nodes. Farther spaced nodes will work, but I get better yields from closer spaced nodes. The rest of the plant that I do not save for cuttings gets shredded and used as mulch. I have a separate video where I show you my mulching process. Planting cassava is easy. For best results, you want to loosen the soil in the planting area. I prefer to use a broad fork or digging fork, but if you want to use a tiller, that's fine. However, I have simply shoved a cassava cutting through sod and have gotten a decent yield. So you can literally just stick it in your lawn and let it grow. You can be lazy and still get food out of it. Without any processing, you cannot just eat the root. It contains cyanide. Usually, the sweeter varieties have less cyanide, while bitter ones have more. According to the University of Florida, sweet root types can be made safe for eating by peeling and discarding the root skin and cooking thoroughly. On the other hand, bitter root types need to be peeled, grated, soaked in water, and fermented before cooking in order to be safe to eat. All the cassava I have here is sweet, and I will let you know where I get cuttings at the end of the video. So I peel the outside of my cassava. I find it easier to slice it and peel with my hands while wearing gloves instead of using a vegetable peeler. It kind of just peels right off. Then I boil or pressure cook it. This season, I've been using an instant pot to pressure cook the roots on high pressure for 20 or 30 minutes. I know it's done when it's fork tender, so I can stick a fork all the way through it. I then remove and discard the inner fibrous core in the middle, and I break down the root to French fry like pieces. Then I can freeze it or use it fresh as a side vegetable or in baked goods. I highly suggest you try cassava this season. I got most of my information from Josh Jameson at Cody Cove Farm and Nursery. They sell cuttings within Florida to all the varieties I have here and more, and I have learned so much about growing sustainable crops to feed my family in Florida from Josh. He's a great source of information and a great source of planting material. Thank you. I just wanted to give you something to think about at the end of this video as you watch the rest of the clips. I love growing both potatoes and cassava, and they both feed my family in a great way. They fill you up. Potatoes are a more needy plant. You have to loosen up the ground around them and give them fertility while they're growing. But when it comes to harvest, you just pull them out of the ground. They're right at the surface. They're easy to dig out, and they are not poisonous, they're edible right out of the ground. Cassava, on the other hand, really easy to plant, can just stick a stick in the ground and let it grow, but there's a lot of processing at the end if you want it to be edible. So, just something to think about when you're deciding what crops to grow. There is always going to be a trade off no matter what.